Hi everyone. Today I'll be making you go through some lower body exercises which you can finish in a span of 30 minutes. As always, you can either do 2 or 3 sets of each exercise and 12 to 15 repetitions of each depending upon how much time you have. But if you do it according to uh, a 15 rep range as well, you will still manage to finish these exercises in a span of 30 minutes. There are 7 exercises, so let's get started with the workout. So the first exercise of this series happens to be a wide squat. Now, wide squat works your quads, your glutes, and your hamstrings, but also another important muscle, which is your inner thigh. The movement or the plane of movement, rather, is in the frontal plane, and that's why your lateral muscles, which is the medial muscle of your thigh, is working, which is your inner thigh. So let me demonstrate to you 5 reps of this exercise, and then I'll discuss or give you more info of this exercise. So I'm holding the dumbbell more horizontal because my range of motion is good. I need to keep my feet at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and let my knees travel in line with the toes. I will give you a profile view to understand what the hip position is. The hip needs to travel slightly back so that the knees don't go in front of the toes. This is how a wide squat is done. The next exercise of this series happens to be a single leg pelvic lift. The reason why I've given it as a single leg is so that you can individually train your glute muscles, because many times it happens that there is an imbalance in the glute strength, and when you are doing bilateral movements, that imbalance is always masked. So try to do unilateral movements when you figure out that you have some issues. So let me demonstrate to you 5 reps of each leg, and then I'll talk a little more about this exercise. So get into a supine position. The distance has to be such where the heel and the middle finger almost touch. That's my distance of the heel to the butt. I do a posterior pelvic tilt. I lift my hip up to a point where the shoulder, hip, and the knee is in a straight line. Take one leg up in the air and do reps. See to it that your hip doesn't touch the floor. Try to travel straight up. I have finished 5 from the left. Now I am working the right hamstring, keeping the leg straight. This is how you do the single leg pelvic lifts, which is more focused on the glutes, the hamstrings. Of course, your quads act as a supporting muscle, but as I said before, it is working on the muscle more individually rather than doing a bilateral movement and not strengthening that weak part. So the next exercise in this series is called as the Bulgarian split squat. Any squat is basically a knee dominant exercise, but this one focuses more on the glute. The reason behind this is because the back leg is elevated, and also the distance between the feet are not the lunge distance. So any distance which is smaller than a lunge distance becomes a squat, and hence this is called as a Bulgarian split squat. Also, the reason is because the back leg is not rested, but it is elevated. So there is no dorsiflexion happening. It is just rested on a roller. So you need a roller kind of a thing for this. Of course, you can do it on the bench, but people need to have a good amount of ankle mobility to perform that exercise. So I have modified the situation here. Just put a stepper below this particular bench so that I can elevate the roller and perform the exercise. So let me demonstrate 5 reps of each side. The target or the idea is that your torso and your lower leg, which is the tibia and the fibula, have to be parallel to each other. So I position myself, rest my ankle there, keep my core activated. Let me demonstrate with the right. Make sure that you are constantly breathing at all points of time. Your knee is traveling in line with the second and the third toe. And this is how you do the Bulgarian split squats. The next exercise which follows is called as the fire hydrants, or it can also be called as a quadruped position hip external rotation. Now this exercise is working the lateral compartment of the hip, which is called as your hip abductor muscles. Make sure that you keep your core engaged at all points of time. Otherwise, you can get into an exaggerated range, but that's not going to help your purpose. So let me demonstrate you 5 reps with each side. You can use an external equipment, which is a fit loop also, provided your form is good without this. So first, let me demonstrate few reps without the fit loop and then with the fit loop. So get into a quadruped position. Maintain a neutral spine, posterior pelvic tilt, and just abduct and come down one side at a time without changing any other body position. You can repeat the same with the other side. You will actually come to know the imbalances in your body, and hence I give you these unilateral exercises to strengthen yourself. Once you have mastered this, then of course you can wear a fit loop across your knees. Make sure it's slightly above, 2 fingers or so above. Again, this is provided your form is good with the previous one. The range is not important, the form is important. So because there is an external equipment around that region, you may not get into an exaggerated range, and which is absolutely fine. As long as this is remaining neutral, everything else is remaining neutral, you are doing great. I will show you with the left as well. The angle at the knee doesn't change at all. So this angle is not going to change. The movement is happening only at the hip. This is how you do the fire hydrants or the quadruped position hip external rotation. The next exercise of this series is called as the dumbbell hip thrust. Now this exercise again works the posterior compartment of your body, isolates the glutes and the hamstrings, and stabilizes your core, challenges your core. The difference between this particular exercise and the pelvic lifts on the floor is the angle. In the pelvic lifts, your upper body is rested on the floor, even your feet are rested on the floor. Whereas in this exercise, your upper body will be rested on this, feet will be on the floor. So the angle and the range of motion of the exercise changes. Let me demonstrate to you few reps and then we can discuss more about this. So the position is important here. Till the time I don't get the position right, I should not be adding any load around my hip region. So the position is such where my upper back or my rib cage onwards, everything is rested on the bench. My head should be rested. So if right now you see my head, my shoulders, my hip and my knees are in a straight line, my knees need to form a 90-degree angle. When I come down, my head needs to travel with the torso. It shouldn't be down. So it's like a seesaw effect. Once I have mastered this, then and then only should I take an external load, keep it around the hip groove, and then do 5 reps just for your demonstration. Make sure that the knees are not caving in, they are staying in line with the second and the third toe. And that's how you do the hip thrust with a dumbbell, working the glutes and the hamstring. Of course, the quad again acts as a stabilizer and a synergist. My next exercise is for a muscle which is rarely worked out when people do their lower body exercises, and that muscle is the tibialis anterior. This is the opposite muscle of the calf muscles, and very rarely people strengthen this muscle as compared to the calf, and hence they have a lot of issues around their knee as well. So let's focus on strengthening the weaker areas of our body. You will be needing a resistance tube or a super band or so. You can of course strengthen this muscle around a cable machine as well, but I don't have a cable machine, so I'm just demonstrating this particular exercise with this equipment. I will just pass this band around this particular loop, put the band over my toes, bend the other knee, and just do a dorsiflexion and a plantar flexion. Dorsiflexion, plantar flexion. And that's all that is needed to strengthen this muscle. I will be demonstrating on the other side so you can have a look more clearly. Make sure that this is not kept too high, otherwise the band will snap. Keep it lower, challenge it, and then contract. You see the muscle contracting, you let it go in front, you contract. The range of motion for this exercise is going to be very less. It's not going to be as big as you get in other exercises, but that's absolutely fine. As long as you are strengthening this muscle, in fact, the strength of this muscle will determine the flexibility of your ankle joint as well. So that's very important. Please work on strengthening this muscle so that your ankle is good, so that your knee is good. This is how you do the tibialis anterior exercise. You can choose the equipment you want, but the movement is a dorsiflexion, which is bringing the toe towards your knee with a resistance. My next and the last exercise of this series happens to be a single leg dumbbell calf raise. Now the reason again for doing it as a single leg is so that I'm working on my balance component, I'm working on my stability component, coordination, and training my calf muscles. So let me demonstrate to you 5 reps of each exercise. You will be holding the dumbbell on one side of the body and working on the other leg. Not that you can not work the same leg, but it's more comfortable when I'm working my left calf and holding the dumbbell in my right hand. So I will be demonstrating to you 5 reps of each. The ball of the foot has to be placed on the step. Don't put it too close that your range of motion is too less. Don't put it too back that you will slip. So place the ball of the foot and do your stipulated range of motion where you're comfortable. Try to keep the knee, which the calf is being worked, soft. So I am not locking my left knee right now. And now I repeat the same exercise with the other side. Make sure that you go lower as well. Your tibialis anterior needs to get activated and involved in this exercise as well. So many times people actually do calf raises just from this point to up and they don't go all the way down. So that's not right. You need to go for a big complete range of motion rather than just doing these things. This is how you do a single leg dumbbell calf raise. So guys, these were my 7 exercises for the lower body. I have planned them in such a way that the weaknesses in the body, which is mostly found in individuals, is being targeted. I also have focused on all the 3 planes being worked as much equally as possible and strengthening the muscles which are on a weaker side. So I hope that you try these exercises. Give me your feedback either in the comment section or DM me, and I look forward to your responses or so. Till next time, I shall see you soon. Bye bye.